Hey everyone, what's going on? It's Greg from Empire Flippers, and today we're going to be talking about how you can sell a faceless YouTube channel. Now, faceless YouTube channels have become more and more popular, especially as all the apocalypse is unleashed on affiliate SEO. Go see my video, The Dreadful State of Affiliate Marketing, if you want to play some catch up on that. But faceless YouTube channels have been around for years, and a lot of people think you can't sell them. Well, the good news is we actually do sell them, so I figured why not make an entire video about it? Because I know a lot of my friends are getting into it now more than ever. So let's talk about how you can sell your own faceless YouTube channel. Before we get into selling it, let's talk about some of the benefits of owning a faceless YouTube channel, which is the reason why a lot of people start it and the reason, frankly, why a lot of people want to buy one. So very similar to content sites, these are pretty passive businesses for the most part. Now, nothing is completely passive, obviously, but once you have your system up and running, you have a few dozen videos out there in the algorithm that are working, there's not that many moving parts to this business. Very similar to a content site. You are mainly making just content that gets ranked either through SEO or through YouTube's proprietary suggestion algorithm, right? So that is one of the nice things. And the other thing about this that makes it a pretty sellable business is the main concept of the business. It's faceless. You don't need to be on camera to run the channel. So if you have a faceless YouTube channel about how to get six-pack abs and you are a 70-year-old dude with a beer belly, that's okay, right? Because you don't have to be on the camera for it. And there's a lot to be said that is beneficial about that, because many businesses are very difficult to sell if there is a face of the brand, because the new owner doesn't really view themselves as being able to live up to that previous face. So with faceless YouTube channels, obviously that is not a problem at all. The other thing that's really nice about faceless YouTube channels is that they're pretty scalable for the most part. Now, similar to a content site, the scalability of the YouTube channel is very similar to a wide type of scaling rather than a vertical type of scaling. You're scaling more horizontally, as in more videos to get more search traffic, more suggested traffic, all that kind of stuff, instead of one video where you're going deep, 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 though that can also work on the YouTube algorithm as well. There's definitely creators out there who have only a handful of videos that have hundreds of thousands to even millions of views. So I'm not saying it's not possible, but that is more of a rarity than normal. And in terms of scalability, I would be surprised if you're not watching some of these faceless YouTube channels already. For instance, some of the ones that I love, that I personally watch, is Economics Explained, which is a fantastic faceless YouTube channel just about interesting concepts about economics. There's how money works, which was a guy who was a previous investment banker, and he also has a faceless YouTube channel now just talking about finance and the way business works from an investment banker's point of view, and he makes it really, really entertaining. It's a great watch. So those are two of them. And then I also have my super nerdy astronomy channels I love, like John Michael Godier and Isaac Arthur, where they take sci-fi type stuff and apply them to reality. Like, how would this actually work in reality? Isaac Arthur does that a little bit more than Michael Godier, but all of these channels are pretty massive channels in their own right, and all of them are completely faceless. Now, obviously, in the case of the last two I mentioned, those are still kind of personality based because it's those creators' actual names on it, but the other two are not so much that. They can technically be voiced by anyone, though there are some elements of change there you got to be careful when you go and acquire one of these. All right, so we talked about the basics of the model. You make a YouTube video, you have a voiceover artist, you have an editor, blah, blah, blah. You research and built the script, and that is basically the business model in a nutshell. So when you are selling these, when you want to sell your faceless YouTube channel, what kind of things are buyers looking at that makes your YouTube channel more sellable than others? Well, let's talk about some of the key metrics here. Number one is your subscriber count and your growth rate. So subscriber count, how many people are subscribing to you, growth rate, how many views are you getting? Now, years past, subscribers used to be a lot more important than they are today. They are still important. I wouldn't say they're completely a vanity metric, but nowadays it's not as important because YouTube doesn't really show your videos to your subscribers, at least not all that much. So it is less important. This is a soft asset, a very soft asset, kind of akin to an email newsletter, or not a newsletter, but email list. Like, you should theoretically be able to get your video seeded to all of your subscribers, but that's not really the way the YouTube algorithm works nowadays. So like I said, this is less important than it used to be. Probably more important than subscribers is your view rate. Are your views going up and up and up month over month, year over year, that kind of thing? This is a good sign because, like I've always said on this channel, buyers buy growth. They don't want to buy a stagnating business or one that is declining. They want to buy something that has growth and is obviously going through a growth spurt. This is the ideal kind of asset to buy. The next is, how are you getting these views and average views per video? So if you only have one video that is popping off and all the other videos are not doing very well, well, this is not a great sign, because this shows that you might have had a one-hit wonder, which anyone can do it, a one-hit wonder if they try it hard enough and enough amount of times. But what they really want to see is across all your video portfolio that each video is getting good amount of views, good amount of watch rate, engagement, all that kind of stuff, because that shows the formula that you have, which is the main asset that they're buying, the formula of how you're making videos, actually resonates with people who are watching those videos. So they want to see that. Very similar to a content site. Like if you were trying to sell a content site and all of your traffic was just coming to one blog article, this is risky for the buyer. Like, what happens if that blog article is no longer ranked in Google? Something a lot of people are feeling the pain of right now, right? So they want to see your YouTube channel that the views are actually looking pretty solid across all of your videos. And speaking of views, there's two main traffic types that a buyer is going to be looking at when it comes to your Faceless YouTube channel. The first one is SEO. So YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, and there's a lot you can do from an SEO perspective to rank for keywords that people are typing into the search bar, just like you would with Google. Now, obviously, the process of doing that is a little bit different than Google, but though there are some similarities. SEO traffic tends to not lead to explosive growth on YouTube, but it does tend to lead to consistent viewership. So what I always recommend is some portion of your video portfolio on your channel should be based around some queries to get that long tail traffic that is coming in week over week, month over month, and a certain percentage of them are going to subscribe and watch your other videos. So when you first begin with a Faceless YouTube channel, like my own pet theory is you should probably start with the SEO queries and then move your way to the more powerful version of the algorithm, which is the YouTube suggestion videos. So suggested is when you go into YouTube's homepage, maybe you're browsing, just looking to see, finding something to watch, right? YouTube's algorithm looks at everything you've watched and everything you like, and starts recommending more and more stuff like that it thinks that you will enjoy and watch throughout the ending of the whole video, right? So this is the suggested algorithm from YouTube, and it's actually way more powerful than the SEO one. This is how you can get videos that get millions of views, and it's like a title such as "I can't believe this happened." Like there's no SEO value to "I can't believe this happened." It's just provoking curiosity, intrigue, and people click it. Maybe they recognize that creator, or maybe the thumbnail has something that allures to them, or they also want to know what was this thing that happened. So this suggested algorithm is actually way, way, way more powerful as you grow. So as you are doing your SEO videos, like maybe you start off with like 100%, and you slowly whittle that down to say 20%, where 80% of your time is trying to get into that YouTube suggestions. But these are two things that a buyer is going to be looking at, because SEO provides some of that stability. YouTube's algorithm, while it does change, it tends to be a lot more stable, at least recently, versus Google's. And suggested shows that, again, your content formula is working. There's something you're doing that's resonating with the audience. And this is a very good sign for a buyer, because if you're not doing the voiceover, if you're not doing the scripts, you just created the process for it and it's working, then this is a business that is pretty easy for a buyer to take over. Next, let's talk about revenue diversity. So every business should have some revenue diversity. For Faceless YouTube channels, there are two main ones, and that is obviously YouTube's AdSense, where they're showing ads through your video. So that's one type of revenue diversity, one revenue stream you can have. Now, for most Faceless YouTube channels, often this is going to be the largest lion's share of your revenue, though not always. And the second way you can make money with YouTube is through affiliates. So you can have your affiliate links in the description, you can link to it in the video, whether it's a course, a digital product, whatever, Amazon affiliate links even. In fact, we've sold Faceless YouTube channels that were monetized primarily through the Amazon Associates program, so it does work. And these are going to be the two things you see the most with YouTube channels. Now, if you want to get a better valuation, then I would highly recommend you also add the third layer of potential product revenue streams with the YouTube channel, and that's digital products. Owning your own info course, owning your own digital download of some sort. These are often very easy things to translate views from YouTube into actual customers. I shouldn't say easy, but simple. You could also do this with physical products, of course. You can have an e-commerce component, but Typically, from what I see, Faceless YouTube channels, the primary monetization is going to be that AdSense, it's going to be the affiliate, and it's going to be your own digital products. Now, there is a fourth one. If your channel gets big enough where it can, really get these people looking at you, you can also have actual direct sponsors. And direct sponsors can be fantastic. They can give you a ton of money as well. Now, when it comes to selling your Faceless YouTube channel, the more diversified you are, the better. Ideally, you don't want any one revenue stream making up, say, 60%. Like, if it's 60% of your revenue and say the YouTube algorithm changes or the affiliate offer goes away, these are all big deals to the buyer. So the more diversified you can be, the better, because it mitigates some of that risk. Like if this one program goes away, that's okay, because I have 8 other ways we're making money with this channel. If you really want to juice your multiple when it comes to your Faceless YouTube channel, you should do this one thing that pretty much no one does. I believe only Economics Explains and maybe How Money Works just like recently started doing this, but you should do it right away if you're building a Faceless YouTube channel, and that is building an email list, owned media. Because as I mentioned, the subscriber account used to be kind of like a soft email list, but it's a soft asset, very easily taken away, and now it just doesn't mean as much as it used to. Versus if you are building out an email list the entire time as you're building this Faceless YouTube channel, that is owned media that's very hard for you to get taken away from you, right? And there's all sorts of ways you can do this, like How Money Works. They have Compound Daily, where it's a daily newsletter about finance. I think it's about finance news for the most part. Stuff that wouldn't make sense to make a full video on. I think Economics Explains has something very similar. So with your niche, you can probably create some kind of weekly newsletter. Like it doesn't have to be a daily grind. In fact, you can even make it to where it is just a long autoresponder if you're in a more evergreen niche. So that way, every time you write 2 to 3 emails, it's another 2 to 3 weeks that you upload to that autoresponder, and everyone that's going through your YouTube videos that subscribe will get that long autoresponder. So that way, it can help you prioritize your time a little bit better, where you're not stressed, where you're like, oh my God, I have to make 1 video a week and I have to do like a daily newsletter, crap. Right? But if you are able to build this email list, this will greatly enhance the value of your business when you go to sell this YouTube channel. Because most people, like I said, do not have this. Like most businesses don't really even have this, from my experience. And it is the most important thing when it comes to the value of your business. All right, let's talk about actually preparing your channel for sale. Now, as I said at the very top of this video, Faceless YouTube channels are a pretty simple business model, which means there's not that much you really need to do or even really can do to prepare for a sale that isn't pretty much already done. But some things to highlight here is your SOPs. So as I mentioned, the person buying your channel, they're buying your system, your content production system, your team usually, the niche, the age channel domain already. And maybe an email list if you were smart about it, right? But when it comes to selling this, like the one thing you can do is dust off your SOPs, your standard operating procedures, and ask yourself, if you gave these SOPs to someone who had no experience in your niche, no experience even in the business model, would they be able to do 80% as good as what your team is doing right now? If the answer is no, then I highly recommend you to relook at your SOPs and figure that out, because the more you can answer yes to that question, the easier it's going to be to sell your business. Now, this might not necessarily increase the value of your business because it is just, an operator's manual basically. But the fact that it is an operator's manual that is written really, really well and clear, that will attract buyers because they can start seeing themselves like, wow, I can run this business. Like I just read these SOPs. This sounds easy, right? And maybe it doesn't sound easy, but at least it's simple. Like the process is clear on what they need to do. So I highly recommend getting your SOPs in order before you sell your business. Next is just don't do anything crazy. And this is true for all business models, not just Faceless YouTube channels. There's been so many times that a business has come to us where they want to sell, but in the last 3 months, they've been doing some wild marketing experiment that they've never done before. And it's very hard to turn that into an ad back. Now, there is an opportunity for you to do that where you could take that expense and put it back into P&L, but the buyer might fight you on it. So my recommendation, whenever you're going to sell a business, you shouldn't be doing any kind of experimentation or big projects for that final 6 months of trying to sell the business. You really want to wind that down and put the business not exactly on autopilot mode. You still want it to be growing, but you don't need to take some big gambits and big risks with the business because you're about to sell it anyways. And if you do that big risk, the buyer might be wondering like, oh God, what is this? And they might start questioning the whole thing, like if this experiment didn't work out. A very common thing I've seen in Faceless YouTube channels specifically is people running ads to the YouTube videos, which, has mixed results usually. Most of the time it doesn't work from what I have seen, though there are a few people who do pull it off. But this is an example of like an experiment that you should give to the buyer. Like let them experiment with it rather than you, and they can play with the once your YouTube channel has become their cash flow, right? Another thing you can do is strengthen your revenue stream. So I mentioned direct sponsors. This is probably the area that you could work out the best with when it comes to preparing your channel for sale. You can just start putting out the feelers, or at least identify a list of companies that with the contacts, all that kind of stuff for the new buyer to reach out to do some direct sponsors. Now, if you've been doing everything else I mentioned, that means already you probably have ads and affiliate at least as revenue streams, and neither of them are over 60%. You're probably pretty good to go. But having that sponsor list of prospects for the new buyer to reach out to try to get some direct sponsors is a nice little value add. Again, it's not going to add value to your business, but it's just going to make it seem easier and more realistic for the buyer to take over and start doing some growth. All right, let's talk about what are you actually going to get paid when you sell your Faceless YouTube channel. Now, this is an interesting question because YouTube channels are actually valued in a very similar way as an affiliate content site. So the content site that is monetized traditionally through Amazon Associates or Google AdSense, YouTube channels are very much in the same vein in terms of their value, but slightly less because you are playing on YouTube's algorithm completely. You don't control the platform at all. It is a bit of a soft asset. So that means the value will be lower than your typical content site, but not by a great deal. So from that aspect, if you're familiar with how content sites are valued, you probably already have a good idea of what your Faceless YouTube channel is valued at. But if you don't, and you want to know specifically for your channel, you can just go to empireflippers.com/valuation-tool. I'll link it in the description down below. We actually just added this functionality to our tool, and our tool looks at over 2,000 businesses that we have successfully sold on the Empire Flippers marketplace. So you get real sales data of what your business is worth. And now, when you go to the valuation tool, there's an actual option specifically for YouTube channels. Now, that is made mainly for Faceless YouTube channels, where that is the primary business model. So if your business model is using YouTube channel as just a marketing channel, you might want to pick a different business model on that list. But if you are a true blue Faceless YouTube channel or primarily just a YouTube business, then I would recommend choosing that one. It takes like 5 minutes and you'll know roughly what you're worth very, very quickly. All right, so the final part here is who is actually buying these channels? What kind of buyers can you expect? I've mentioned before in another video about the 3 main types of buyers: the newbies, the wizards, and the strategics. And the nice thing about YouTube channels is because of the semi-passive nature of these businesses, they can be successfully sold on the lower end. Like with an e-commerce store, I think you struggle to sell a true blue DTC e-commerce store if it's valued less than $200,000 because it's so small and fragile and so many moving parts. But with a YouTube channel, selling one for less than $200,000, well, not easy, is a lot more easier, I should say, because there's not that many moving parts. It's very newbie friendly. And honestly, this is a great side hustle to acquire. So this means you as a seller, you have a buyer pool that really runs the gamut. You have people who are, maybe they're working 9 to 5 and they just want to acquire a profitable side hustle that is spitting off some cash flow every single month for them. Maybe they want to play around with a new project or experiment on the lower end. So you got all that good stuff going for you, but you can also sell it for much higher. If you have a large fitness channel, then you might be a very attractive seller to all sorts of people, including the newbies, but also the private equity financial wizards, and of course strategics. Like if a strategic owns a supplement company, it makes total sense to buy your large fitness channel, right? So the nice thing about YouTube channels is you can really sell them at all levels of scale. You can sell them when they're just a profitable side hustle, and you can sell them when they're in complete enterprise level where you're getting just crazy amounts of views and retention, all that kind of stuff, because it has value to buyers across the entire spectrum. So that's the nice thing. These channels are pretty exitable if you've done it well, like what I'm talking about in this video, because of their very nature. Like, again, on the lower end, people want to buy a side hustle, and on the higher end, they're viewing your YouTube channel as a fantastic traffic asset to sell the real thing that they want to sell, which might be their supplements or fitness equipment, or whatever type of business that they're running, right? They're viewing you as a massive organic traffic lever for themselves, which honestly is a great matchup. I've seen it work many times in the wild. So there you have it, the basics of selling a faceless YouTube channel. Like I said, it's not that complicated. Faceless YouTube channels are quite simple overall. There's not that many moving parts to the business model, which leads you open to a very wide buyer pool, and you can sell these for pretty close to the same price as you could sell a good, decent, profitable content site. So all that being said, if you are out there building a faceless YouTube channel and you want to make a nice little exit, then go ahead, click the link down in the description below, get a free valuation from good old Papa Empire over here, and I shall talk to you soon.